The most significant piece of evidence that we have in this entire ancient astronaut puzzle is Puma Punku in the highland of Bolivia.
For decades, archaeologists have argued over how the impossible stones of Puma Punku were built, carved by hand, shaped by gods, or something else entirely. Archaeologists are baffled by what Puma Punku was, how it looked, and what the purpose of this enormous structure would have been. Now, with cutting-edge 3D scans and microscopic analysis, the mystery has cracked open. What researchers discovered hiding inside those blocks is forcing experts to question centuries of assumptions. We have had some circumstantial dating, but we have been unable to date the stones of Puma Punku themselves. They could be thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years old. We don't know. And it might prove that 1,500 years ago, someone in the Andes knew how to make stone float. These are the mysterious ruins of Puma Punku, nearly 13,000 feet in the Altiplano of Bolivia. The enigma of Puma Punku. In the highlands of Bolivia, 12,000 feet above sea level, lies Puma Punku, where stone blocks weighing over 100 tons fit together with joints so precise that measurements show gaps of less than 1 mm. Even after 1,500 years, archaeologists measuring the joints between these blocks found something extraordinary. Archaeologists are baffled by what Puma Punku was, how it looked, and what the purpose of this enormous structure would have been. The seams are so tight that, as local lore claims, not even a razor blade could fit between them. It sounds like a myth, but those who have stood before the stones know otherwise. These joints are astonishingly smooth, consistent, and nearly seamless, even after 1,500 years of weathering, earthquakes, and erosion. What makes this precision even more remarkable is what happened next. Yet, the site we see today is only a fragment of what once was. Puma Punku is so unique in the way that it was constructed and shaped and positioned that it is the most intriguing ancient site on the planet. In the late 19th century, Puma Punku suffered one of the worst acts of archaeological destruction in South America. When railway expansion reached the Bolivian Altiplano, dynamite crews and stone scavengers descended upon the ancient platform. Massive slabs were blasted apart, dragged away, and repurposed as ballast for train tracks and bridge foundations. Eyewitness accounts from that era described the chaos. Men with hammers prying apart the fitted stones. Carved surfaces shattered for convenience. Entire sections of the monument dismantled for industrial use. What had survived millennia of natural decay was nearly undone in just a few decades of human progress. The once sorted platform became a field of scattered fragments. The architectural logic of its layout lost to time. Even today, archaeologists struggle to determine the original placement of many blocks. In the highlands of Bolivia, Puma Punku, some of these blocks are over 40 to 50 tons each. What can you tell us about this? Some still half buried, others flipped or broken beyond recognition. But destruction didn't erase the mystery. Even in disarray, Puma Punku radiates precision. The H-blocks still display crisp right angles, evenly spaced slots, and parallel grooves. Features that seem far beyond the capability of the bronze and stone tools known to the Tiwanaku culture. This contradiction has sparked endless debate. Were these blocks carved, or could something more unusual be at play? Local Aymara oral traditions preserve a haunting story that the builders once worked with stones that flowed like water, soft enough to mold by hand before hardening into their final form. There actually are ancient Incan legends that suggest that they had the capability of softening the stone. For generations, villagers repeated that tale that the stones of Puma Punku were poured, not carved. To some, it's only a metaphor born of awe. To others, it hints at a lost process, a forgotten science that blurred the line between geology and art. And so, the question endures, how did a civilization more than 15 centuries ago create joints so exact, surfaces so flawless, and design so symmetrical, all without iron, steel, or modern machinery? Whatever the answer, it remains locked within the fractured blocks that still guard this windswept plateau, waiting for the world to listen again. Engineering marvel. Puma Punku is more than a collection of ancient stones. It's a study in precision that still humbles modern engineers. When researchers first examined the site in detail, they realized that each block wasn't a random piece of rubble. It was part of a highly organized system, a three-dimensional blueprint built on repetition, geometry, and balance. The most recognizable of these stones are the H-shaped andite blocks. Hundreds of them carved with mathematical precision. The so-called H-blocks are in fact shaped like dovetails where there were clear deviations. Each one features notches, grooves, and projections cut so evenly that they could interlock like puzzle pieces. These weren't mere decorations. They were functional joints designed to connect adjoining stones and distribute weight evenly through the structure. Archaeologists believe this interlocking design allowed the platform to resist both time and nature. Even after 15 centuries of earthquakes, flooding, and human disturbance, many of the joints still hold perfectly together. The precision is so extreme that the gaps between stones measure less than a millimeter, tighter than many modern concrete seams. Modern engineers studying the site have noted something astonishing. The builders of Puma Punku worked with tolerances that rival machine-made components. Right angles are consistent across all block faces. Parallel slots maintain uniform depth and recessed grooves align in perfect symmetry. In some cases, the level of regularity matches what we achieve today using digital cutting equipment. Beneath the visible ruins lies another layer of genius, a hidden foundation system that anchors the structure to the bedrock. Excavations reveal enormous sandstone slabs, some weighing over 100 tons, measuring up to 26 feet long and weighing more than 100 tons each. Carefully laid in leveled trenches. These foundation stones weren't simply stacked. They were fitted together using tongue and groove joints and keyed blocks that locked in place like the teeth of gears. This distributed the load across the entire base, preventing slippage or collapse during seismic shifts. Such techniques were perfectly suited to the Altiplano, a region prone to earthquakes and seasonal flooding. The builders clearly understood how to make stone behave like a flexible system, rigid in strength, but adaptive to movement. Another remarkable feature of Puma Punku's design is the use of metal clamps. Archaeologists have discovered narrow channels between adjacent blocks where bronze eye-shaped staples once held the stones together. These clamps were cast on site using a molten copper tin alloy and poured into precisely carved sockets. Once cooled, the clamps were hammered flat to secure the blocks permanently. When examined under modern microscopes,
these metal staples revealed traces of arsenic, an additive that improves hardness and corrosion resistance, a signature of pre-Columbian and Nean metallurgy. The presence of such alloys suggests that the builders weren't just skilled masons. They were also advanced metal workers. Puma Punku were formed by hand with primitive stone tools. But some researchers point to the intricate stonework capable of producing materials strong enough to bind entire platforms. This fusion of materials dense andite, heavy sandstone and forged bronze gave Puma Punku both strength and stability. The weight of each block was not only directed downward but also spread sideways through the interlocking geometry. This system absorbed stress, reduced wear, and prevented cracks from forming along fault lines. It's an ingenious example of load distribution, a principle that modern architects still rely on in earthquake-prone regions. Recent digital reconstructions have confirmed that the interlocking geometry, the metal clamps, and the foundation keys work together as a unified system. The result was a structure that could endure centuries of natural and human disruption without losing its shape. Puma Punku wasn't just a ceremonial platform. It was a masterpiece of ancient engineering where aesthetics met practicality. Every groove, every angle, every socket served a structural purpose. The builders didn't guess, they calculated. They worked not by trial, but by design. It's no wonder that modern researchers describe Puma Punku as one of the most technically sophisticated sites in the ancient world. A place where stone seems to obey equations carved by hands long forgotten. Digital reconstruction. For more than a century, researchers tried to imagine how Puma Punku once looked. But without a complete map of the stones, every attempt ended in speculation. No one, in fact, on Earth knows who built Puma Punku and how far back in time it was first constructed. The site's vast blocks lay scattered like the fragments of a forgotten code. Each piece precise, but the overall pattern lost. Old hand-drawn maps and field sketches couldn't capture the subtleties of its geometry. They were too rough, too limited. That changed when digital archaeology entered the scene. Armed with drones, LAR scanners, and millimeter-accurate cameras, teams began documenting the ruins in breathtaking detail. Every block, every groove, Every chipped corner was recorded and converted into a high-resolution 3D model. Piece by piece, the data formed a digital twin of Puma Punku, a complete virtual replica of the monument accurate to within a few millimeters. Back in 2018, a pioneering team from the University of California, Berkeley, led by archaeologist Alex Veranik, took the first leap. Using high-resolution scans of every surviving block, they produced miniature replicas to test how the stones once connected. When they assembled them, the tiny models locked into place with near-perfect precision, their joins and angles matching seamlessly. That small-scale experiment confirmed something remarkable. The builders of Puma Punku had worked to a consistent and repeatable design system, not random carving. Their proportions were mathematical, their layout deliberate, a blueprint encoded in stone. Building on that foundation, later projects expanded the idea into full-scale digital reconstruction. By 2024, the IDIA Lab and Tijuanacu Heritage Project had combined drone photogrammetry and terrestrial LAR to capture the entire site at unprecedented resolution. Each block's surface was scanned from multiple angles, producing a virtual data set. So precise that alignment errors between faces measured only 2 to 8 millimeters, a level of accuracy that rivals modern industrial machining. When the team ran gravity drop simulations, allowing the digital blocks to fall naturally into place under virtual gravity, the results were stunning. The pieces settled into stable interlocking positions exactly as they would have in their original structure 15 centuries ago. The simulations showed that the H blocks and profile elements were not independent carvings, but parts of a modular architectural system designed to bear weight and resist stress together. Researchers didn't stop there. Using machine learning algorithms, they analyzed the scan models for recurring shapes and dimensions. The software revealed subtle symmetries and proportional ratios repeating across dozens of stones. Proof of a standardized design language, even where erosion had damaged corners or chipped edges. The AI was able to predict their original outlines, confirming that the monument followed a coherent, measured plan. These discoveries have done more than recreate lost architecture. They've redefined how we understand ancient engineering. They prove that the builders of Puma Punku worked with a precision that could be modeled, tested, and verified. And perhaps most importantly, they showed that the monument's perfection wasn't accidental or mystical. It was the result of method, measurement, and mastery. As researchers refine these models, Puma Punku is being rebuilt, not in stone, but in data. Its secrets re-emerging from thousands of fragments scattered across the Altiplano. And for the first time in centuries, the world can finally glimpse what this incredible structure once looked like and how it was meant to stand. Material secrets. For centuries, archaeologists believed Puma Punku's blocks were carved by hand from solid stone. But new laboratory results are now forcing experts to reconsider that assumption. Because the stones themselves are revealing something strange. The builders of Puma Punku didn't just use one kind of rock. The site combines red sandstone for the foundation and andite for the intricate H blocks and wall elements. Both are incredibly dense materials. Andesite, a volcanic rock, is so hard that modern tools struggle to cut it cleanly. Yet here, its surfaces are flat to fractions of a millimeter and the corners sharp enough to draw blood. So, how could a civilization working 1,500 years ago have achieved such perfection? Some researchers have proposed a controversial answer. The stones may not have been carved at all, but cast using a form of ancient concrete. Proponents of the casting theory point to chemical analysis that they argue shows unusual composition in the sandstone blocks around Lake Titicaca. Inside the matrix are tiny crystalline residues of sodium carbonate, better known as natron, the same mineral used by ancient Egyptians to harden mortars and preserve mummies. Its presence here is completely unexpected. The local geology contains almost none. Natron acts as a flux. It lowers the temperature needed for minerals to bond, triggering a reaction known as geopolymerization. When mixed with volcanic ash, silicates, and water, it can transform ordinary sand into a malleable paste that hardens into stone. This has led some researchers to suggest a revolutionary idea that the massive blocks of Puma Punku weren't carved at all. They were cast, poured into molds, and left to cure. The microscopic evidence supports this. Laboratories studying the blocks have detected amorphous binder phases, glassy non-crystalline zones that only appear when a chemical binder fuses particles together. Natural sandstone forms over millions of years through pressure and sedimentation. But these samples show patterns of rapid setting, a hallmark of artificial stone. To test the hypothesis, experimental teams mixed local sand, volcanic ash, and natron in controlled ratios. When the mixture cured, it produced a material identical in density, texture, and color to Puma Punku sandstone. Under X-ray diffraction, the lab-made replicas displayed the same chemical fingerprints, especially the sodium-rich binder that doesn't occur in natural outcrops. If true, this discovery would mean that Tiwanaku engineers had mastered a kind of ancient concrete more than a millennium before its rediscovery in the modern world. They may have understood how to dissolve and resolidify stone, shaping megaliths not by brute force, but by formula. Yet, the sandstone is only half the story. The site's more enigmatic andite H blocks have yielded an even greater surprise. In 2019, researchers found something no one expected. When they scanned Puma Punku's andite blocks with energy-dispersive X-ray equipment, faint signals appeared. Tiny peaks of nitrogen and carbon buried inside the stone. That shouldn't be possible. Volcanic rock forms in blazing heat that destroys all organic material. And yet there they were, the chemical traces of life sealed inside ancient stone. This strange discovery pointed to a new idea. The builders might have used an organo-mineral mixture, a blend of volcanic ash, water, and natural substances like plant extracts or animal oils to create a soft, moldable material that later hardened into rock. If that's true, these stones weren't just carved. They were crafted by hand and chemistry working together. The idea may sound radical, but it's backed by decades of research from Dr. Joseph Davidovits, founder of the Geopolymer Institute in France. His team recreated this process in the lab using local clays, volcanic tuff and carboxylic acids derived from plants. The resulting stones matched the Puma Punku andite in microstructure and compressive strength. Their surfaces even showed the same fine pitting and granular uniformity as if the ancient and modern samples were twins. Skeptics argue that contamination could explain the organic traces or that the natron might have leached in from the soil over centuries. But every new test narrows that possibility. No natural andesite from the surrounding quarries exhibits these features, and the consistent chemical ratios across multiple samples are difficult to dismiss as coincidence. If the casting hypothesis proves true, it changes everything we thought we knew about ancient engineering in the Andes. It would mean that long before steel tools or industrial furnaces, the builders of Tiwanaku understood materials science at a molecular level, creating synthetic rock to achieve shapes impossible by carving alone. Whether carved or cast, Puma Punku's perfection now tells a new story. One not of alien intervention or lost magic, but of human ingenuity so advanced it borders on the miraculous. And as the tests continue, the stones themselves may soon confirm that the people who built this place didn't just move mountains, they learned how to make them. Scientific debate. Even with all this new data, the mystery of Puma Punku isn't solved. It's only becoming sharper. The more evidence researchers uncover, the more divided the scientific community grows. To make sense of the conflicting findings, archaeologists have developed a tiered rubric for testing the cast stone hypothesis. The first tier is visual evidence, the kind anyone can see: razor-thin joints, mirror-smooth surfaces, and the absence of visible tool marks. These alone don't prove casting, but they raise the question: how could such perfection be achieved using only hammerstones and bronze chisels? The second tier is compositional evidence, the realm of microscopes and spectroscopy. Here, scientists look for chemical anomalies that distinguish natural rock from artificial stone, sodium-rich binders, amorphous phases, or traces of organic compounds that shouldn't survive in volcanic material. Each microscopic scan, each energy-dispersive spectrum adds another piece to the puzzle. But the final and most demanding tier is replication, the gold standard of science. To pass it, any claim must be independently reproduced under controlled conditions. That's why as of 2025, a massive blind multi-laboratory test is now underway. The process is designed to eliminate bias completely. If multiple labs detect the same organic signatures and the radiocarbon results align with Puma Punku's known construction window between AD 500 and 600, then the casting hypothesis would pass its toughest test yet. It would mean the builders of Tiwanaku were creating synthetic stone at a scale never before documented in the ancient world. Of course, the debate remains fierce. Skeptics argue that extraordinary claims demand extraordinary proof, warning that contamination or environmental chemistry might still explain the findings. Others insist that the growing body of evidence from chemical residues to digital reconstructions has already tipped the balance toward an astonishing truth that ancient Aenean engineers mastered materials science centuries ahead of their time. As the final results await peer review, one thing is certain. Puma Punku has forced scientists to confront the limits of their own assumptions. It's no longer just an archaeological site. It's a scientific battleground. A place where faith in ancient craftsmanship meets the hard edge of modern technology. This is not Bronze Age technology of the Tiwanaku culture. This is high technology. And how could high technology have existed at least 2,000 years ago? And whatever the outcome, the stones have already done their job. They've made the world look again, question again, and wonder if the secrets of the past might still outsmart us today. Whether those stones were carved by hand or cast from an ancient formula, one thing is certain. They were built with purpose, precision, and genius. The builders of Tiwanaku weren't just shaping rock. They were shaping legacy. Every joint that locks without mortar, every block that fits as if poured by the gods reminds us that human history is far from fully written. Because sometimes the past isn't primitive. It's just waiting for us to catch up. So the next time someone tells you our ancestors lacked technology, remember this place, Puma Punku, where stone once flowed like water and even today refuses to give up all its secrets.